news. Okay. Oh, okay, I'll just press got it. Yeah, we forgot, didn't we? So it became huge. But it also became, it felt right. It felt, because whilst we were guiding something, people were finding people in their own community. And this was what was at the heart of this. It wasn't about me, it wasn't about MOMM, but there was an organising body that enabled people in their own community to find each other in the physical. I was fortunate enough to go out to America and met up with the Heart Maths people in their land in California, and really felt the emergence of the heart of compassion based with them, based with us, and what more can we do for the future? Anyway, I managed to get on a plane just before we all got locked in and came home. And then it was like, well, what's all this about now? And of course, then Zoom happened. So we were able to keep on running. We ran meditations every night through the MOMM network and others for 2.5 years at 5 o'clock in the evening. Hundreds of people came on because we didn't know what was happening, and it helped us find our way. So what happened during this time when we had these massive figures of all these people and COVID, moving back into home, into community, the voice was saying to me, strengthen local ties, strengthen local ties. So go back. My consultant left because I'd run out of funds, but that was okay, because it felt anything is possible when the intention is pure. So every month now, MOMM, me, and the monastery in Manchester, a group of us from Nottingham goes over to Manchester, which is 2 hours away over the spine of Britain, over the Pennines. And from the sacred space of the monastery, it's usually the first Sunday of the month, except when it's Global Mother's Day, which is coming up on May the 8th. We come together within that community. Our community of Nottingham comes to Manchester and shares in this sacred space self-care. So we do movement practices, qigong. We have sacred space. We put out the labyrinth, which is the image of the Chartres, and people walk the labyrinth. We have sacred singing bowls and sacred instruments where we have silence. We have a community lunch together. And then then we run a global meditation, and we invite people from around the world to come in. It's very makeshift. It's just me on my laptop computer and the people from the monastery. So that is sort of holding the space for the world to come in, and we do self-care practices. So that follows the original co-creating compassionate communities. So moving into Nottingham, Nottingham is very special, but it's no more special than any other place in the world. But I'm talking from a personal perspective, how we've come together through that, I believe, through that moving from competition to collaboration, find each other, and we're each looking at what we each do in our own fractal to make a whole picture, an integral picture. And this is where Marilyn Hamilton's work, who she's gifted, like Ola, gifts their time. Marilyn Turkovich here gifts time, and my time is free anyway. Where we can look at the work of Integral City, integrating everything that is already here through the 4 voices, the voice of the citizens, the major voice, and we have representatives of this, the voice of the third sector, charities and faith communities and social enterprises. The power lies within governance, so the voice of governance, and also the voice of conscious business. And we did this. We were through the community foundation, our local community foundation, gifted a substantial amount of money for us through Positively Empowered Kids to set up Youth Voice in Action, and a social democracy tool where the children's voices could be heard, an idea would come into being, They would create an idea through a lot of people coming together, and then they would follow it and log it, and that idea would come into manifestation, but it came from the children. It empowered the children. So Nottingham is in the midst of a kind of a social revolution from the heart, where we know each other and we have this mutual respect and trust. We are working in our own environments with our own vision of what it is that we're, the life purpose that we bring into our community. And we are meshing together these 4 voices. So this Youth Voice in Action was incredibly successful, and it's been written up and it's completed. The next stage was to bring the Nottingham, the NGCC group, a group of people, elders in a way, to say, how can we, what's emerging in our community, and how can we bring more care, more compassion, more consideration for everybody. And we were looking at Ola's incredible work that he did with Barbara Marks Hubbard and the Life Purpose groups and the work of Charter for Compassion Integral City. How can we bring people into the centre to meet each other in that same way? And we were calling it Emergence Festivals. The Emergence Festivals, what is waiting to be born? And we were really doing really well with this, and we were geared for May the 7th, but something happened where we had to relook at it. Firstly, it was bigger than any of us anticipated, and challenges started to come forward that we didn't have enough time in which to really make this happen. So with this incredible act of courage, we said, let's postpone this, because we're not in a rush. And we'd anchored a date, but it felt rushed. But an emergence can't be rushed. An emergence is waiting to be born. And within this waiting to be born, we're all waiting to birth whatever is waiting to be born. And it felt that it was being steered, which was fine, but it was like, And then, and then I was given the gift of COVID. And that wiped, the decision had been made on the Wednesday, and then I went into a COVID place on Saturday, Sunday, but it allowed time and space to go, everything has to stop. And during that time, something more is emerging. Firstly, I know that to be able to do anything in this world, we have to have energy. And the energy from the heart needs to be maintained. And one person doesn't do anything. It's about coming together, and each of us coming together and playing our part. And so as I sit here today, I hope I'm still within time. I'm sorry, I've lost the time. What's really being shown is that with an open heart, with an open mind, or open minds, and the networks that already exist. We're not creating some new networks. The networks already exist. It's about coming to find each other. So just a few more words, really, if I may. I have 3 ambassador roles in Nottingham. One is Positively Empowered Kids, which is the early years. Another ambassador role is Nottingham Mindfulness Group, which is sort of the mid-years, and they have 4,000 or 5,000 people, and about 100 come every week to meditate and look at mindful living, and I'm part of that. And then the third ambassador role, which is really very, very important to me, is the work of the hospice, Nottinghamshire Hospice, that doesn't have a bed, but it provides 150,000 care hours in the community. Palliative care, it's the biggest model that we have in the UK. And I go in there and because there is a central space, because people come in for daycare and therapeutic advice. But there is this huge community model that is in existence. And I believe that the part that MOMM plays in this is helping people who care for others Because as we go about caring for people, so as I expressed about care being compassion, alignment, relationships, and the environment, the S for cares. Who cares for us? Who cares for us? And I've had to seek out extra care for myself as I try and bring myself back into alignment. And what I realized, the S in care stands for this integration of spirituality and science. Merging, it's the wholeness of science validating the ancient spiritual wisdoms. And it's about the integration of everything. It's about the work that Ola has been doing with, and the Charter for Compassion, with this whole wheel of different pieces of the pie I think about, you know, from social justice, education, health, pulling all that together with compassion in the middle, and co-creating a model in NG, Nottingham, NG being our postcode, but it also stands for energy. So the energy of compassion within the centre of Nottinghamshire. So the intention is pure, the energy is increasing, the emergence is happening, the partnerships are growing. And as we find each other, this emergence will happen organically. So I feel, I hope I haven't over talked. I hope I've been able to show a little of what's happening here. It's vast, it's so vast. Sometimes it's good just to be able to have 10 days in bed, as I did, to reflect on what the heck's going on here, and bringing the simplicity and the love and the fun and the joy back into this as it emerges. So I thank you for being here, listening to me, and be delighted if there are any questions, or Marilyn, if you would like to.
Yeah, I don't necessarily want to be the first one to ask the question, but I will. I'm wondering, Sue, on any given month, for example, how do you communicate with one another? I mean, you spoke of the the levels we know about, for those of us who were lucky enough to hear Claire, and help me with the other name. Jackie, of course. So Jackie and Claire, and what's happening with positively empowered kids. But so that's one level. And then the mid-level that you talked about with the practice of mindfulness and mindful living, and then what appears to be hospice and palliative care. How do you communicate? Do you communicate between all three of the levels? Do you have newsletters? Do you have central meetings? Oh, yeah. Let it. Yeah.
We have. Well, I do a newsletter. I do a newsletter twice a month. With positively empowered kids, until this recent health blip, we had a weekly mentoring where we would tune in every week, and we'd meditate together, and then we'd have a brief and a debrief. And then the work that they've been doing with the Kickstarters, the young interns, we went and met as well, and we're going to be working towards their festival in September. You know, that's another emergence. With the mindfulness group, when we used to meet every week, I used to go physically and be there, and then be a presenter probably about every 3 or 4 months, and there'd be about 100 people in the room. They've now had to reevaluate, and they're now doing this hybrid approach where they're now meeting the physical as well as doing it on Zoom at the same time. So we interact. Sean, who runs that group, we meet as well in the physical. The hospice, less so at the moment, because there's been a change of ownership, CEO. The old CEO retired, and the new one has come into place. And as an ambassador there's 12 ambassadors. We've not had a chance to meet her yet. And again, which is fine, because she's been settling in. And that's due to happen in the physical next month. There's another group which I actually didn't mention, if I may, and it's the Commonwealth group. And there's a huge group here, there's about 10 of us, looking at all the people who live in our community who are from the Commonwealth. and we're having concerts, and we've got a big event on the 14th of May. So we're looking at the diversity and unity of people who have culture that are in our city, who we are meeting here as well. And that. It seems to me like there's a lot of things going on, and whatever pops its head up gets gets the attention, and then we move with that, and then that all quietens down and something else pops up. Mm.
Is there? I was just going to ask you one other question, and that was, I was on a call, and the director, I'm guessing, of what we in the States might call the community trust, or the community organization that funds projects. What a gem she is. And how did you approach her, and maybe some little bit of advice about how people in other cities could do the same thing? Because almost every major city, especially in Canada, the United States, has such an organization.
Yeah, it's the Community Foundation, and there are hundreds and hundreds of them throughout the world.
Yeah.
So we liaise with Nottinghamshire Community Foundation, and Nina is a rebel and a rare spirit, and we get on incredibly well. It's an organisation that is based on philanthropy, and it's about local giving and local receiving. It's the Robin Hood effect. It's perfect. She calls herself Robina Hood and laughs about it. So the philanthropists are inspired to give to community betterment, community endeavours, and it's very closely regulated. That what the philanthropists want is what is then given to the organisation that the Nina, in this example, knows will fulfil that mission, and it will be for community engagement and community growth, with often and usually within a spiritual framework, but not necessarily so. So Nina kindly gifted £10,000 to the Positively Empowered Youth Voice in Action from a philanthropist trust, which is, I mean, it's just so wonderful, because not only is it the money important, but it's the confidence that goes with that money. It's saying our community values what we are doing in our community, so let us give to you. And again, there's all these safeguards in there. Now, for the Emergence Festival that we've postponed, again, there was another gift of £10,000, which we've given back. And she said, something is emerging, I understand that. I will ring fence this money for a period of 12 months, so that when you're ready, or when it is ready, whatever is waiting, that there is the fund there, as long as it meets the criteria that were set out. So it really means a lot. So I ask everybody, wherever you are in the world, go and check out your community foundation and build a relationship, because each one has its own way of operating, but within a global framework. Yeah. Hope that answers. Gard, you had your hand up. Hi.
So it's such a pleasure to meet you, Sue. We have an organization here called the Greater Good Council, which are philanthropists who are directly interested in the kind of social revolution you're talking about. So again, as a meetup, you might think about gathering that kind of energy, and it's people who really want to see this change. So I'm just really appreciative. I'm hoping that you could send the writings on the empowering kids to Marilyn, and she could perhaps send it out to everybody. I'm hosting the Obama Fellows here, and I have a friend named Johnny, who is from London, and he is a philanthropist. He seeds projects. So I'll put you in touch with Johnny, but they are from all parts of the planet, India, South America, you name it. And there's something in the air, and you have sensed it. And I just really mostly want to say thank you for being a change agent. It was just about a week ago that I finally watched the movie on Florence Nightingale. And so, bravo, you're bringing You're bringing that spirit back to the planet. And my wife is an obstetrician, and she would agree with you. No premature deliveries.
Do you know, thank you. And thank you for all those generous offers of connection. Funnily enough, I got lost last week. I was on a journey and I got lost. I ended up in Florence Nightingale's birthplace. Who knew? And this was one of the, her quote was drilled into us as little nurses. I was never little, but you know, nurses, when we first started. And this quote, let me see if I can just pull this up now. The role of the nurse is to put the patient in the best possible condition so that nature can act and healing occur. Mm. And looking at those words, patience, put the patient, well, patience, healing takes time. So that's healing. The conditions, what are the conditions? Well, we've co-created those conditions, haven't we? Which is compassion and care. Putting the patient best possible. So yeah, nature can act. Now you see, that's the important part. That's the bit that I believe is a personal mission, you know, along with Deepak and all these other people, to go, you know, nature is there for us. We need that connection. And I'm watching Obama on television the other day with his nature program. It's like, oh, this man is just sensational. But he's David Attenborough, isn't he? It's like, let's reconnect with nature. Let's take in the good air, the good food, the good water. Yeah. So thank you. Very much appreciate.
Yeah. We're having a summit today on climate change. And there's a lady from the South who's going to be speaking. And Rabbi Sodendorp of Amsterdam has said that this is the holy decade and that more change needs to occur in this next 10 years than has occurred in all previous history. And what I'm aware of is the existential nature of the climate change issue. And so to empower those kids, we need to become fiercely compassionate and aware of what's coming down, and it's coming down very quickly.
And the kids, I believe, are already wired for this change. They're already there. It's us who have had it conditioned out of us and forgotten, but we're remembering, aren't we? So I have to speak for myself here as an elder. I like to put rock chick in there as well. But being an elder and having lived a long life and the experiences that go with it, we have this incredible role to play in supporting the consciousness that is already here and that creative flow that's already here in all those different lifespans that are present at the moment. Yeah. Thank you. Love it.
One last question. I don't know, you probably have a very full schedule, but the monks of Plum Village in France have invited a group to plan a global sort of consortium in May, late May. And if you had any ability to be in France in late May, I know the organizers would love your presence there.
Oh, take a breath. Woo. No.
Well, and the theme is science, spirituality, and transformation.
Oh, I want to go.
Okay, I'll send you the information.
Oh,
and it would be lovely to have your input because we need a social revolution of care.
Oh, my goodness, I want to cry, but I'll hold it in. Thank you. Wow, slightly overwhelmed here. Should we take a breath, all of us, whilst I take a breath? So shall we, from an open heart or open hearts, may we just give gratitude through this very beautiful group. Maybe close the eyes to take ourselves into this inner experience, or soften the gaze. The smile the natural smile. Let it form and breathe in through that smile. Feel the heart space fill. And as we breathe out, let's breathe out to each other as if we're breathing love, care, and attention to each other. And breathing it back in from each other into ourselves. So let's just flow that breath for a moment into ourselves, love, care, and attention and affection, and out to each other with this sense of gratitude. And if it feels comfortable to do so, let's spill this out into our communities. Love, care, compassion. Where we live, where we reside, where we are in this minute. Breathe it in to ourselves and out into our community. And then out into the world. The world is waiting for our love. And then breathe the love back in from the world, back into ourselves. Let's flow this. We represent the world. Let's enjoy a few quiet breaths, expanded breaths. And then bring this slowly and gently back into ourselves. And I wonder if, as we're in this place of open-heartedness, I could read you the words by the Dalai Lama that show this in all its beauty. And his words are, every day, think as you wake up, today I am fortunate to be alive. I have a precious human life. I am not going to waste it. I'm going to use my energies to develop myself, to expand my heart out to others, to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. I'm going to have kind thoughts towards others. I'm not going to get angry or think badly about others. I am going to benefit others as much as I can. My religion is very simple. My religion is kindness. And that's the Dalai Lama from when he came to Nottingham in 2008 on a path to peace. So from me in Nottingham and from the Dalai Lama, yeah, thank you. Are there any other questions? Again, I don't know how we are for time, Marilyn, but
we're doing well. I just wanted, I know that Gard had asked the question about the positively empowered kids, and Susan was able to put the conversation that they presented and we had 2 weeks ago. The link is in the chat box. And I just wanted to share with everyone that one of the things that we're trying to build, and hopefully it will become eventually a kind of guidebook, and that is the benchmarks that have been achieved in various communities around the world. So for example, in Las Vegas, there's a wonderful program called Anytown Guard, or the camping program. It's incredible because it can really be replicated throughout the world in different communities. And everything that you talked about today, Sue, could be as well. And for 3 years now, 4 years, in Jordan, we have brought together groups of students in something called the Compassion Education Summit. And so from 7 different countries and 15 schools, that is something that could happen in, you know, provinces, states, around the world. So we're trying to gather that information, and we'll be making it available. But, you know, hopefully some people here know about the mapping project, but this might be one of the first things that we can really put our teeth into, because it really is something that everyone could share. So I just wanted to let people know about that. Another thing, and then we'll come back, because this might get us started with a few more questions, is to say that if you go to the website, and here is, I'm going to have to move everyone because I won't be able to move my own cursor. But this is, we've been talking about the positively empowered kids, and that was our session on April 7th. You can always see the recording if you missed it, get the outline of what was presented and the background information. And if we received anything from the presenters, then certainly we make certain. And these are the ones that we've had so far this year, starting with Wendy Elliott, also from the UK, on the Flourish Project, and then a community of mindful parenting in March. But let me just share with you the upcoming adventures. There's Sue for today. On May 5th, we have Montessori, the Montessori group from Europe. And so they will be here presenting some of their various programs. And then on May 16th, and then again on June 6th. So this is a two-parter with Dr. Andrew Garner, looking at neuroscience in childhood, and the follow-up on June 6th on Beyond Toxic Stress. We have the Respect Foundation project from the Netherlands on June 2nd. This was something that was started 15 years ago. You heard Rabbi Sotendorp's name, and this was one of his initiatives that now is national and international, as a matter of fact. And then on July 7th, we have Lisa Miller on Awaken Schools. She's an individual at Columbia University who has written a wonderful book on neuroscience and spirituality and growth in children. So you can always just go straight to, when you come to programs and sectors, go to education, and you'll see all of the offerings that we have. And there really are quite a few, almost every week, so that we have them divided into these ed forums and then other education programs. And if any of you think of something that we should explore, let us know. We're in conversation with Amelia, Reggio Emilia, which is an Italian-based pedagogical approach for young children, and the Fuel Project out of India. So those we'll have later in July and August.
So Marilyn, I'll volunteer Rico Ocampo to do something on Camp Bennytown. Truly is a transformation.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. And Sue, I will, and the rest of you, I will share. I teach Chinese philosophy, and there's a word. The word is Xin, and it means heart-mind. And it is the connection of the brain to the heart, which we now know through the science is true. But it also means trust. Until we create that connection, we're going to lack trust. And so long as we lack trust, we will live in fear.
I'm just wondering, as we have a couple new people that we haven't had on to visit the Ed Forum, if it would be great to hear a little bit about who you are and what you do. And so There are old faces here, but Alex and Jan, I know Jan, you're very present on the UK meetings, but this group doesn't necessarily know you, and Cindy. So I'm wondering if you'd tell us a little bit about yourselves. And your mics are all off. So
I'm happy to start, Marilyn, if you'd like.
Yeah, absolutely.
For those of you who haven't met me before, I have been in education for 35 years. Can I just say thank you, Sue, first, because it's been, I mean, you describe yourself as being moved by many moments today. Well, you weren't the only one, I think. So thank you very much for sharing your story and the way that change has happened in your life. You know, I think the value of these meetings for me is that I feel I get topped up with belief that change is possible, and the scale of what you were talking about today was really, you know, inspirational. So thank you very much. I work now, having been in, as I say, in education for a long time, and as a head teacher, I work now with teachers in a range of school settings, really to try to get to the heart of what compassionate leadership in education looks like. And I spend a lot of time with heads who are fearing for their teacher body at the moment that people will just give up because they are so burnt out and so lacking in the energy you were talking about, Sue. And it's seeing the difference that it can make by looking at what people need, going beyond just psychological safety, which I think, you know, has been become a real buzz phrase in education, but actually going to look at the heart of what it means to act with compassion and make changes that make a difference because of what we acknowledge and recognize in terms of the needs that our teaching staff have. And it's really changing schools a step at a time. And what is lovely now is hearing about people that I've worked with and the difference they're making within their school context by being quite pushy with their head teachers. So we need to do this because we want good people to stay looking after and caring and educating our children, don't we? So, you know, that's, I think I'm making a very small contribution and nothing like the scale of what Sue is doing. But if we can begin to change our schools and keep staff wanting to work there, then we can make a difference to our children's lives, I think.
And Jan, you could tell everyone where you're from.
Yes, I'm based in the UK. Actually, Marilyn, last time I think I spoke, I was in Oxfordshire. I can just say, I will now endorse it. I cannot recommend moving house twice in 18 months, I know, but there were family circumstances that demanded it. So I'm hoping now that's the last of cardboard boxes for a while.
Oh, okay. What about you, Alex?
Well, thank you. I wasn't expecting to actually be part of such an intimate setting. So it's such an honor to be with you all here. And thank you so much for sharing. And it's so great to hear Sue's journey. And, you know, we have a call scheduled with her. So it was great to already meet you in advance. So it's just a perfect timing. And thank you, Ole, for sharing about this opportunity here. So with regards to myself, so the very short version is that I wear kind of three hats. I'm an educator. I taught in secondary schools in London for about 8 years. And I also have business background with, you know, in various kind of industries, events management and sales, and most recently also coaching and therapy. And as I'm joining more of these circles, it's interesting to learn that, you know, some people are saying they've been on the journey for as long as I'm old. So obviously, I cannot boast being for too long on the journey, but I have been on the, you know, by journey, of course, I'm sure you know what I mean, you know, on the conscious path for about 15 years and for about 8 very much in-depth, experiential, deep work on, you know, so many levels and different aspects of our consciousness in different realms. And for the past 2 years specifically, I've been almost exclusively just in service to my guidance and whatever flows through me. And it has revealed itself to be in the space of providing a technological space for us to come together in synchronized ways in as large scale as we possibly can. And it has very recently now all come together, and we already have the platform created, which can hold virtually infinite number of simultaneous events happening. And so that's what I'm in service to primarily right now. And that is called the Global Unity Festival. So that's up and available to be checked out. So thank you.
And could you tell people where you're located?
Right now in Latvia, Northeast Europe.
Okay, great. Cindy, you know that I'm going to call on you.
Which is great. I'm like you, Sue. I'm recovering. I never got tested for COVID, but I had a virus. So I'm just recovering still. But yes, grateful for it, forcing me to rest and take self-care. I'm grateful to be here, by the way. And when you said a rebel, Sue, I always had to tell people I'm a rebel, but in a good way. You know, I always knew I was a good rebel. And it is interesting that I'm among so many educators, because I'm a high school dropout from the 1970s, and school didn't fit me. And I found out later in my late 50s why, because I'm more of a heart-based person than I am a left-brain person. And I only wish I would have known that when I was younger to embrace it more, but it's all good. My passion now, aside with Olay, I'm part of the support team for the Life Purpose groups. That's my one passion. The other is supporting peace literacy, which is an interesting initiative because it started in the United States with a former Iraqi captain, and his name's Paul K. Chappelle, and Marilyn was gracious to have him on. I believe was it March, Marilyn?
No, actually it was in January. He was part of our 40 Days of Peace.
Right, brain fog. So that's my new passion, is peace literacy. I'm helping to raise the funds to continue to allow peace literacy to be free and accessible to all educators across the world, not just the United States and Canada. And very honored to be a part of that. And we just got an email today that Montessori, there's a Montessori in Ohio, in the United States, Ohio, that is using the peace literacy curriculum and teachings, and they just asked for more material. They want to, start working closer with peace literacy and bring more of it into the Montessori curriculum in that particular area. And so it's all about education. And I love how Paul says we need to help our children build the muscles of empathy, build the muscles of compassion, and they are about purpose and meaning. And anyway, the whole, philosophy of peace literacy fits in with everything that you shared today. So it is something to be a part of, witnessing the unfolding that's happening through consciousness, through the world, through us, through our hearts. And I'm like you, I'll get all emotional because I'm so my heart is so open, and I'm just really grateful. So thank you. I am complete.
Thank you, Cindy. I just want to put a plug in. Jan is a part of our education sector team. And as I think Sue mentioned, that we have 12 sectors within the charter. And they go from peace, obviously, art, business, education, environment, and health, social justice, restorative justice, gender partnerships, and science and research. We're always looking for people to be a part of each of those teams. And so if I was just thinking, Cindy, I know you have so much work because of what you're doing with Paul and Peace Literacy, but boy, we could use somebody from Peace Literacy who is on our peace sector. So just, think about it. And, Jan's already taken. So we have a place that sector, by the way, is just really growing. And, our task is to really look at what's going on so that we can really integrate all of our sectors together. So we would really like as much help. And, my heart is abuzz when I hear somebody like Alex, because we've been making so many transitions in the last couple of months. And we feel it deeply with our technology. So I won't bother you, but if you feel that you have an inclination to want to talk, we would love that. So are there more interactions here that we can have with Sue? Because Christina, I think, well, in a way, what you're doing in Monterrey or have been doing, not only with Encuentro, but also with your whole volunteer group is very similar to what Sue is doing.
Yes, actually, so we are in Mexico, in Monterrey, Mexico, and we really started as you did. And I think right now we are working with a lot of people around with all the programs that Charter has. And we've been making beautiful alliances thanks to Charter. So I think if we are united in this purpose, it could be beautiful what we can reach together. So thank you for what you are all doing.
I think another thing that we can often look to, and I had this experience in conversation yesterday, I was on a meeting with Antwerp and who are considering the steps to becoming a compassionate city. And the first thing that they brought up was that, well, Rotterdam is a sister city to us, and we know that they're a compassionate city. So we would really like to have a real strong alliance with Rotterdam. And so, as we look at all of the success of Nottingham, you don't necessarily have to be an official sister city, or as they say in Europe, twin city. But we've been on calls like this where one city says, like I remember Atlanta hearing about what was going on in Botswana, saying we should become compassionate cities, so that there are ways that we can certainly consider working together. And I think MOMM, Sue, would you give a little historical background to MOMM?
Yeah, sure. Moments of Mass Mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it came out of Unplugged Space. It felt Unplugged Space had done what it came to do, but there seemed to be a need for the rise of the divine feminine, not in any way to usurp the sacred masculine, but to bring this balance back. So MOMM came about through a conversation that the mother energy was needed to be brought forward, and it felt like being handed a mantle. I don't know if I'm answering your question. I hope I am. So from that, MOMM was born, and I sort of slunk into the background because MOMM came forward. I'm just trying to remember some of the key elements of it. It was about, there were so many different groups that I was running in Nottingham Cured Community Chakra, the WOWs, Women of Wisdom, and all this. And we brought the whole lot together because I was running them in different spaces, a bigger picture. And so said, why don't you just bring the whole lot together? So MOMM became Present Here, MOMM in Community, where the very essence was of free expression. In fact, I've got it written down here somewhere, I think. Yeah, the essence of this community is to be an amplifier that supports free expression, creates space to encourage and empower positive transformational shifts in self-awareness, and ultimately raising human and global consciousness. So it was our local networks, our local people who over the years, we started this in 2008, and as we morphed into different ways of being in the world, MOMM came into birth, really. And then from that, during COVID, I hadn't realized that MOMM needed a home. Every mother needs a home. And the people at the monastery in Manchester, and I do believe it is the most sacred site in the world. It's unfolding in perfect alignment. It's in terms of the energy alignment around the world. They know for sure that it's highly interconnected. So when we go every month to the monastery, MOMM feels like we're all giving birth to an energetic child. So I don't know, am I answering that okay?
Yeah, no, I think that, you know, if we look at our own communities, even the street that we live on in our own neighborhoods, you can almost point to the goodness that's there. When you look at a city, you can see all these different organizations that are doing incredible work. Yeah. And at the same time, you can see the suffering that pulls at your heart. And so I think that what you've achieved in Nottingham is that you've brought together all of these, as you say, I think fragments, and started to build them into a whole so that they could really start to address the kind of need that exists within a community.
Yes, and as we've moved forward as a collective with yourself and Ola and Marilyn Hamilton, it's making sense, because what we do is it feels right and the experience is good for its community betterment. But I would suggest, certainly from my perspective, I don't really know what I'm doing other than meshing heart-opened people who have a practice of professionalism and want to help others as they help themselves, and naturally magnified and magnetized rather to each other. Go, well, what is it you do? Well, how can that come together? So when we did the second mass meditation and the Nottingham group, I went down to Bristol. We knew that we couldn't hold it with the current framework because everybody's businesses got so busy that they were doing this as an addition. So we knew that we were onto something. So it's everybody's in their own world and everybody's doing their own beautiful work. How can this not be an addition to it? How can this be part of it as well? And because I work purely in service to community, I have that ability or that time where I have total freedom to pick and choose because I'm not looking to earn a living, which allows, there's no hidden agenda here. And I think and there's so many, I think Alex mentioned the same, I am called to do this. No matter what, often I think, I'm just going to go, away and do something else. Well, yeah, I do that. I mean, but that drive to conscious evolution is so deeply ingrained. But there needs to be, in a way, a trusted source holding it together, holding the four voices together, holding the energy together, who is separate from it and who can weave. So yeah, I feel like I'm in a very fortunate position. I'm sure every community has got that sort of person, and as they awaken to their own awareness, to their own power, or that empoweredness, and we all grow. And I know for me, I have grown in my community because of others. Because we've shared each other's incredible practices. And when I've been sick, like I was for a few weeks, I've now reached out to a number of them. They said, how can I help? Oh, give me some, listen, or, you know, so it's how do we, as a community of people who are helping others, help ourselves as well. And I see this is what is needed.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sue. This has been really wonderful. And so thank you all for coming, and hopefully we'll see you for the next session as well. Have a good night or day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Thank you.